Hey everybody, and good Tuesday evening, and welcome to Weather for Weather Geeks. We have plenty to talk about this evening, including some chances for wintry precipitation before the week is through. So let's quickly review today. It started with some sunshine today, but you're going to see on this time lapse from our Youngstown camera high atop our transmitter tower an increase in clouds as we got into the second half of the day today. Kind of a cool looking time lapse with a couple of different layers of clouds, some cumulus clouds bubbling up below that increasing deck of altostratus and stratus clouds, and unfortunately, not a great sunset this evening, but we passed an important threshold as far as sunsets go yesterday, with our sunset officially at 8 p.m. in a lot of the Youngstown area, a couple of minutes later in some areas, a couple minutes earlier in some parts of the area, just depending on exactly where you live. Officially in Youngstown, our sunset this evening, 8:02. We're going to have sunsets at 8 o'clock or later until August 28th, so about 4.5 months worth of sunsets, 8 o'clock or later. And then, of course, as we get into the fall season and the days get shorter and sunsets get later, you know the drill. That really becomes apparent as we get into the month of September. Well, not only is the sun setting later, rising earlier, it's also getting stronger, higher in the sky. It only gets to 26 degrees above the horizon on the first day of astronomical winter. Not much higher than that throughout January, but then the sun starts getting stronger and higher in the sky as we get into February and certainly through March. And now that we're into mid-April, the sun is getting up to 60 degrees or so above the horizon, up to 64 degrees by May 1st, and by the start of summer, the maximum sun angle here locally is about 72 degrees above the horizon. All right, again, unfortunately, clouds obscuring the sun in most of the area late today, and as of this recording, a little before 7 p.m., we had a couple of sprinkles and light rain showers. Even a couple of random snowflakes can be seen out there early this evening. This is with a weak disturbance that's crossing the area. The bark a little worse than the bite in most of our area this evening. There is some accumulating snow, even some hefty amounts of snow in the higher terrain from south central PA, where it gets really hilly, of course. And the highest point in Pennsylvania, about 3,000 feet in elevation, is in west central, well, south central PA, kind of on the western side of the state. And then, of course, it's very mountainous into the panhandle of Maryland, down into West Virginia, where we do have some decent amounts of snow out there this evening. Now, where the growing season has been officially declared as being started, there are freeze warnings out tonight for a lot of southern Ohio, Indiana, Kentucky, down into the Tennessee Valley. The average date of our last freeze here is not until early May, so our growing season doesn't usually officially begin until that first week of May. So you're not going to see freeze warnings and freeze watches and frost advisories around our local area, probably for another couple of weeks at least. All right, for you early morning risers, there's been a treat in the sky early in the morning this week as the moon has been doing the tango with a few different planets, Mars and then Saturn and then Jupiter from left to right. The moon just below those planets. Best chance to catch this will be before 6:30 in the morning, Wednesday morning. I think the sky will be clear enough to check this out. By about 6:30 or so, the sky is getting light enough that a couple of those planets, especially Saturn, gets a little bit harder to see. All right, so our Wednesday is going to play out a lot like today did, with an increase in clouds, and I think as this weak front approaches in the afternoon, there's going to be some rain and even some snow showers trying to break out. Don't expect any snow to stick, but I think there's going to be some snowflakes seen. We're going to squeeze in a decent day on Thursday, but then some intrigue on Friday. Our model here is showing what I think is a pretty likely scenario. A wobbly front wiggles just far enough to the north, attracting enough moisture, and the air will be cold enough that there's going to be some snow breaking out in the pre-dawn hours of Friday. And I do think this will stick and accumulate, especially on non-paved surfaces. The odds of 2 inches or more worth of snow through Friday night, highest in west central PA out towards Clarion and DuBois, but even in our area, they're pretty elevated. I mean, you look up at the legend here, probably 60 to 70% chance of at least an inch or two out of this wet snow early Friday. So here's a look at our model spread right now, showing the Europeans down closer to an inch, the GFS closer to 2 inches, GFS Ensemble up around 3. I think 1 to 3 inch amount is pretty likely with this. Most of this would be Friday morning. This may mix with and even end as a little light rain right around midday. And of course, I talked about that strong April sun. And it's not going to stick around very long with that strong April sun, even though we probably won't see a whole lot of sun Friday afternoon. that incoming solar radiation, much like it did this past weekend, it'll melt that snow pretty quickly. So there's not going to be much evidence of this snow left on the ground, certainly by the weekend as temperatures rise into the 50s over the weekend. So pretty cold pattern in a lot of places right now with a lot of blues on the weather map here. These are the departures from average for high temperatures. East of the Rockies, this is a pretty chilly pattern for the time being, but you're going to notice those blue areas get a little more muted and start shrinking a little bit as we head towards the weekend, and the pattern becomes a little more benign. It's not a warm pattern at all, but we'll probably approach 60, approach average at least by Sunday before another shot of cool air arrives during the first half of next week. There are some things to look forward to, I think, during the last week or so of April. I think the pattern's going to start trying to revert back to the kind of pattern we've gotten used to in recent months. It doesn't look real warm to me, but it does certainly look less chilly. By that last week of April, the pattern will relax enough that I think we'll see a lot of temperatures, high temperatures, getting into the 60s. Probably not a pattern that's going to produce 80s or anything like that, but probably at least back to average, it looks like, later in April. Until about the 20th or so, maybe the 22nd, until that point. So probably for the next week, this does look like overall a pretty consistently cool pattern. Thanks for checking out tonight's edition of Weather for Weather Geeks. Always appreciate your viewership. I'll look forward to bringing you a fresh edition of this video with an update on the Friday snow and everything else you need to know. Same time, same place on Wednesday.